What would you do if your own family left you out of Christmas, er, but still had the nerve to send you a $52,000 bill for a luxury car you never agreed to buy? Would you stay silent for the sake of peace? Would you pay it just to keep the illusion of love, or would you finally say enough? This is the story of Elena Brooks, a woman who did everything right. She worked hard, supported her family, and spent years earning a seat at a table that was never really set for her. But when her signature was forged on a luxury car loan for her reckless sister right after being excluded from the family Christmas, Elena was forced to confront the truth she'd spent her whole life avoiding. What if the people who raised you never really saw you at all? And if blood isn't family, what is? This story will break something open in you. If you've ever questioned loyalty, love, or where you truly belong, don't just watch, like, share, and subscribe to join us as we begin Elena's unforgettable journey. My name is Elena Brooks. I'm 32 years old, and up until this past December, I still believe naively, perhaps, that blood was thicker than betrayal. Christmas used to be my favorite time of year. There was something magical about it when I was little. Cinnamon-scented kitchens, tacky light displays, and that one Frank Sinatra album my mom insisted on playing while we decorated the tree. We weren't just a family. We were the Brooks family. Capital letters, and all polished, poised, and performative. We lived in a gated community just outside Orlando, Florida. My dad, Douglas Brooks, made his fortune in private wealth management. My mother, Mary Ann, styled herself as the unofficial first lady of our neighborhood, leading charity galas and HOA meetings like she was born for the stage. On the outside, we looked pristine. Inside, though, everything came with a price tag, especially affection. And then there was Savannah, my younger sister by 5 years. Savannah was always the sparkle of the family. Where I was quiet and bookish, she was vibrant and chaotic in that intoxicating way that made people forgive her over and over again. When she failed her freshman year, she was finding herself. When I graduated summa cum laude, I was told not to rub it in. Still, I loved them, truly. I excused the comments, the comparisons, the double standards. I thought that maybe if I just worked harder, achieved more, proved myself, one day I'd finally earn the seat at the family table I'd never really felt was mine. That's why, when December rolled around last year and my mailbox remained empty, I didn't panic at first. I figured maybe the invitations were running late, or maybe they were going digital this year. My parents weren't exactly tech savvy, but who knew? So I waited. Then I checked my spam folder. Nothing. 2 weeks before Christmas, I called my mom. She didn't pick up. I sent a short, polite text. Hey, just wondering what the plans are for Christmas this year. Let me know if I should bring anything. She replied the next day with a thumbs up emoji, not even words, just a thumbs up. I sat on my couch, staring at the glowing icon on my phone like it could explain itself. It was absurd, and yet not entirely surprising. That Friday, during my lunch break at the office, I made the mistake of opening Instagram. There they were, my parents, Savannah, my aunts and uncles, even my cousins from Texas, smiling in front of the fireplace I knew too well, the one in my parents' living room. The caption read, Brooks Family Christmas Bash. So grateful for this beautiful chaos. Family, first, my stomach dropped. I scrolled through photo after photo. Savannah, in a sequin dress, my mom holding a platter of baked brie, my dad carving a honey-glazed ham. Everyone was there, everyone but me. For a moment, I genuinely thought I might throw up. Not because I wasn't invited, but because they hadn't even pretended to include me. No text, No call, not even a fabricated excuse. It wasn't a simple oversight, it was intentional. When I finally called my mom again that night, she answered on the fourth ring. "Oh, Elena." "Sweetheart," she sang into the phone, like she'd just stumbled into a Hallmark movie. "How are you, Mom?" I said, trying to keep my voice even. Why wasn't I invited to Christmas? There was a pause, not long, just long enough for a lie to form. "Oh, that," she said. "It was very last minute, darling. Nothing formal. You're always so busy with work. And Savannah said you had mentioned having other plans." "I never said that," I replied. Another pause, this one heavier. "Well, you know how she gets when she feels overshadowed. She's been having a rough time lately, and we didn't want to cause tension. You understand, don't you? You've always been our strong one." Strong. That word again. It was always the shield they used to excuse excluding me. She went on to say I could come by for actual Christmas Day if I won, like she was throwing me scraps. I mumbled something polite, hung up, and sat in silence for a long time. That night, Savannah texted me. "Sorry you missed the party. Mom said you were busy anyway. Can you help me figure out what to get her for Christmas? Thinking jewelry but need your $2 advice?" LOL. I didn't reply. I couldn't. Instead, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind crawling through every other moment I'd been the afterthought. The second choice, the strong one, which really just meant the dispensable one. That was the night I stopped making excuses for them. I didn't know it yet, but this would be the last time I allowed them to define what family meant to me. When people hear about my family, they assume I come from privilege, and in some ways, that's true. I had a private school education. We took summer trips to Lake Como. Our pantry always had the expensive cereal, the kind that came in glass jars instead of cardboard boxes. But what most people don't see, what I didn't fully see for a long time, is the unspoken contract that came with all of it. You can have comfort, Elena, but you will also carry the weight of everyone else's chaos. That's how it always was with Savannah. She was the storm, and I was the roof they kept patching with me. I learned early that the only way to be seen was to be useful. So I became useful. I worked hard, excelled, took care of myself. I didn't rebel, didn't crash cars or flunk classes or come home smelling like vodka and regret. By 25, I had graduated from a Northwestern with dual degrees in finance and behavioral economics. I landed a job at one of the top wealth advisory firms in Seattle and started climbing the ladder without favors or connections, just pure, exhausting hustle. When I bought my first condo at 28, I remember calling my mom to share the news. Her response, "That's lovely, dear. Now that you're so established, could you help Savannah with her rent this month?" I helped. Of course I did. It started small. A few $100s here. A temporary Venmo there. Once, when Savannah overdrew her checking account by $800, my dad called and asked me to quietly cover it so it wouldn't affect her credit. She was applying for an apartment, he said. She needed a clean slate. I wired the money that night. At the time, I told myself it was love. That's what family does. That's what big sisters do. But it never stopped. It only grew. 3 years ago, Savannah got a DUI. They downplayed it, of course. She was barely over the limit. My mom insisted. She's going through a breakup. She just needs support. By support, they meant legal fees and a new car. They asked me to contribute. Said they'd match whatever I could offer. I paid $5,000 toward the settlement. They never matched it. What struck me most, though, wasn't the money. It was how none of them ever asked how I was doing. I had just survived a layoff. I was rebuilding my emergency fund. I was working 70-hour weeks just to prove I belonged in the boys' club of high finance. But no one asked. Instead, I kept getting framed as the one who had it all figured out, which was just another way of saying, we expect more from you, even if it breaks you. When Savannah missed a credit card payment, it was because she was too free-spirited to care about money. When I mentioned my promotion, my father replied, "Don't let that success turn you cold. Elena, no one likes a woman who's all business." The irony would have been funny if it didn't sting so much. They called me cold, but it was just easier to be composed than it was to beg for approval that never came. Still, like clockwork, I kept showing up. Every birthday, I sent gifts. Every holiday, I flew back even if I stayed at a hotel instead of the family home. Even when they mocked my career choices. Even when they called me Miss Independent like it was a slur. Last fall, I tried something different. In a last-ditch attempt to feel included, I invited the family to Seattle, my treat. A full weekend Broadway tickets, a suite downtown, a reservation at a restaurant with a 3-month wait list. They came and promptly spent the weekend complaining. My apartment was too minimalist. The rain was depressing. Savannah brought up her breakup 5 times at dinner and accused me of being emotionally unavailable when I didn't take her side. Still, I smiled, paid the check, booked their airport shuttles, told myself I was being mature, gracious, evolved, but afterward, I felt hollow, like I'd just hosted a conference, not welcomed my own family, and that's when it started sinking in. Maybe I wasn't the problem. Maybe I was just the one who stopped pretending it wasn't a problem. The texts kept coming, though. Savannah would message during work hours asking for urgent help, usually something financial. When I didn't respond fast enough, I'd get passive-aggressive follow-ups like, "Must be nice to ignore people from your ivory tower." Meanwhile, my parents continued their regular commentary. "Savannah's just more sensitive. She lives with her heart. You're logical. And that's fine, but don't expect her to be like you." At some point, I stopped replying. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was just tired. Tired of earning love like it was a salary bonus. Tired of being punished for having my life together. Tired of being everyone's backup plan, but no one's priority. And yet, I still bought gifts that year. Still wrote cards. Still wrapped things carefully, as if presentation could disguise the emptiness underneath. I was preparing, again, to perform my part. I had no idea they'd already rewritten the script without me. Christmas morning came like it always did, quiet, gray, and still in Seattle. I woke to the sound of rain tapping against my windows and the soft hum of my space heater warming the room. The apartment smelled faintly of cinnamon from the candle I'd left burning the night before, a small nod to the holidays. There was no tree this year, no wrapped presents waiting under it, just me, a pair of cozy socks, and a mug of strong black coffee. For the first time in my adult life, I didn't send a Merry Christmas group text, no calls, no FaceTime, no effort. I told myself it was an experiment. I wanted to see how long it would take before someone reached out. A part of me still hoped it might be that morning, that maybe, just maybe, I'd get a message saying, "Hey, where are you? We missed you," but the notifications never came. Instead, as I scrolled through Instagram, because of course I did, I saw the second wave of photos. Christmas Day. This time, they were in matching pajamas, holding mugs labeled Brooks Family 2023. Savannah wore a Santa hat tilted just right. My mother had arranged a tablescape worthy of a magazine spread. My father stood beside the tree with a golden retriever I didn't even know they had. I blinked, rewound, looked again. Had they, quote, adopted a dog and not told me that hurt? In a way I couldn't quite name. It wasn't just about being excluded. It was about being irrelevant. Like I didn't even factor into the equation anymore. At 3:07 p.m., Savannah finally texted Merry Christmas. Hope you're doing okay. Everyone missed you yesterday. Did you see the dog she's called Bubbles LOL? Total accident. Dad just brought her home. Anyway, can you help me pick a gift for Mom? Need to Venmo you later too? I stared at the message. There it was. Again, that quiet assumption that I existed only to fund, to advise, to clean up, not to be seen, not to be loved. I didn't answer. Instead, I sat down and opened my journal. It was something my therapist, Dr. Wallace, had encouraged me to start a few months prior. At first, I'd resisted. Writing felt self-indulgent. But that day, something compelled me. I started listing every moment I could remember when I'd been an afterthought. 8th grade spelling. B1 first place. No one came. High school graduation. Everyone late because Savannah had a meltdown. First job offer mom asked if I could give Savannah a referral at the same company. My birthday 2 years ago, forgotten entirely. Savannah posted about her cat instead. The list kept growing. I didn't write it in anger. I wrote it to see, to finally look at the full picture, not just the pieces I had edited for the sake of family harmony. It was like washing a dirty window and realizing the view had been distorted all along. That night, I didn't cry. I thought I would. I'd braced for it. But the tears never came. What settled over me instead was silence, heavy, clear, inevitable. The kind of silence that isn't empty, but full of answers you've been avoiding. The next morning, I got a call from Leah, my closest friend since college. How was yesterday? She asked gently, already knowing. Quiet, I said. Good quiet, but also empty. You want to come by for leftovers? She offered. My mom made enough ham to feed half the city. I hesitated. Leah's parents had always been kind to me. Her dad would ask how my job was going and actually listen. Her mom always remembered my favorite tea. I'd spent Thanksgiving with them once, back when a storm grounded all flights out of Seattle. It had been one of the most peaceful holidays I could remember. Yeah, I said. I'd like that. Good, she said. We already saved you a seat. That sentence broke me a little. We already saved you a seat. No strings attached, no passive-aggressive guilt, no performative affection, just space, made intentionally, for me. It was the first time in years I felt chosen, not tolerated. And I realized something on the drive over to Leah's house, radio humming in the background, windshield wipers sweeping rhythmically through the rain. Maybe family isn't who you're born to. Maybe it's who remembers to save you a seat even when you haven't asked. It happened on a Thursday. Seattle was doing its usual impression of a wet sponge ski pressed low, sidewalk slick, the kind of cold that clung to your jeans long after you came inside. I'd just gotten home from work, mentally rehearsing a presentation I had the next morning, when I noticed the envelope. It was thick, manila, no note, no return message beyond a familiar, looping script across the front. Madeline Brooks. I held it for a few seconds, trying to place the weight in my hands. There was something unsettling about it, like touching something warm that shouldn't be. I carried it inside, laid it on the kitchen counter, and stared. Then I opened it. Inside was a stack of papers. The first page was an invoice from Sterling Motors of Orlando. Amount due $51.37. Vehicle 2023 Mercedes-Benz, GLC 300 Coupe, registered to Savannah Brooks, co-signed by Elena Brooks. My eyes froze on that last line. Co-signed by me. I flipped through the rest in silence. Loan agreement, insurance forms, payment schedule, and then a signature, my name, in a flowing Slightly off-kilter scrawl that looked almost like mine, but not quite, just enough to be dangerous. Taped to the final page was a handwritten note, Savannah's handwriting. I recognized the bubble letters from old birthday cards. Thanks, sis. I really needed something reliable after the Jeep blew out. Dad said you wouldn't mind. First payment due Feb 1st. Love you always, sis. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. It wasn't anger yet. It was shock. That slow, icy rush that starts at your spine and spreads forward limbs, chest, throat. I sat down, the papers still in my hand, my heart beat loud in my ears. I read them again, slower this time, tracing every signature, and then I whispered aloud, like I needed to hear it in the air. I didn't sign this. That one truth broke something open. In that instant, every small betrayal reassembled itself into something massive. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a strategy. They didn't even ask. They just decided. And forged. I grabbed my laptop, hands trembling, and pulled up my online banking, my emergency fund, the account I never touched, except to transfer bonuses or tax returns. There it was, a failed login attempt, time-stamped 2 days earlier, flagged as suspicious, blocked by the bank's security protocol, the device ID, my old laptop, the one I gave my father last year when I upgraded. My throat closed. I felt nauseous. They had tried to get into my savings. What had I become to them? A line of credit, a fallback plan, a silent partner in Savannah's recklessness. I didn't know who I wanted to call first, my lawyer, my bank, or Leah, but I called my parents. My father picked up. "Elena," he said, as if we just spoken that morning. "Did you get the paperwork?" I was too stunned to answer. "What? What is this?" I finally asked. "A car loan," he said evenly. "Savannah needed a reliable vehicle. You know how hard it's been for her lately." "I didn't sign anything." "You're overreacting," he replied. "Your mother signed for you. We figured it'd be easier that way." Easier? Like forgery was a matter of convenience. "She forged my signature," I said, more to myself than to him. "She helped," he said. "She knew you'd make a fuss, so we thought it best to simplify things. Family helps each other. Elena, you make more than enough to cover the payments." My voice dropped to a whisper. "This is fraud." His tone sharpened. "Don't be dramatic. Your sister has a job interview coming up. She needs to arrive in something respectable. Do you want her to fail respectable? A $52,000 SUV for a woman who hadn't held a steady job in 5 years, who forged my name, who tried to enter my savings account, and now they were asking me to carry it again. But this time felt different, because now I could finally see the full picture I spent years blurring, softening, adjusting for the sake of love. I wasn't angry yet, but I was awake. After I hung up, my phone lit up with a series of messages from Savannah. "OMG, Dad said you're being weird about the car. What's the big deal? I needed it." "Elena, you don't even drive that much. Why do you care if you don't help? I'm literally stuck. I could lose everything." Again, that last word echoed, again like it was my fault she kept losing things. I didn't respond. I poured a glass of water, set it on the windowsill, and watched it shake in my hand before I brought it to my lips. Then I opened a new browser tab, fraud lawyer near me. The invitation came via email. Short, polished, cold. "Your father and I believe it's time to discuss things in person. Sunday, dinner, 7 p.m. Please be reasonable. Mom, not a request, a summons. In the past, I would have rearranged everything to say yes. I would have driven hours, bought a hostess gift, practiced polite phrases in the mirror just to keep the peace. But now I accepted the invitation for a different reason. I was no longer going there to be understood. I was going to be heard. Their house looked the same as it always had: white pillars, wrought iron fence, perfect lawn. The kind of place you drive past and imagine stability inside. But I knew better. Savannah's new Mercedes was parked front and center in the circular driveway, a shiny declaration of entitlement. My father's Tesla and mother's BMW were tucked neatly inside the garage, like nothing was out of the ordinary. When my mom opened the door, she was dressed in silk and tension. "Elena," she said, kissing the air next to my cheek. "Glad you came. We have your favorite tonight." It wasn't. It never had been. But we walked into the dining room anyway. My father stood by the fireplace, swirling whiskey. Savannah was already seated, scrolling through her phone with one hand, her perfectly manicured nails clacking softly with each tap. "Elena," she said without looking up, "you look serious." I didn't respond. We sat. The table was set like a peace offering. Candles, linen napkins, polished silver. I recognized the performative calm. It was always like this before a storm. My mother served beef bourguignon and started with what she called a few gentle observations. "Elena," she said softly, "this reaction of yours, it's not becoming. We're family. These things can be worked out quietly." My father nodded. "There's no need to escalate. We're asking you to reconsider your position. Savannah needs support right now." Savannah chimed in. "I've already told everyone about the car. I posted it online. I even tagged you. If it gets taken away now, I'll look ridiculous." There it was. Not concern, not remorse, just inconvenience. I placed my napkin on the table, carefully folding it once, then again. "Let me be clear," I said. "I didn't sign anything. You forged my signature. That is fraud. And you attempted to access my private savings account. That's theft." Silence. Then my father leaned back, exhaling slowly. "We raised you better than this. Family helps family. We gave you everything." "No," I said calmly. "You gave me just enough to make me feel guilty for earning the rest myself." My mother's lips thinned. "You've always been difficult, Elena, always so rigid, so transactional. It's no wonder you're still alone." That one landed, but I didn't let it show. "I may be alone," I replied, "but I'm not being used." Savannah slammed her glass down. "Oh my God, are we really doing this? You're seriously going to ruin everything because you didn't get an invitation to Christmas. You're so sensitive." I turned to her. "Finally, I'm not doing this because of Christmas. I'm doing this because for 32 years, I've been told to understand you, to forgive you, to pay for you financially, emotionally, psychologically, and you've never had to take responsibility for a single thing you've done. You're jealous," she hissed. "You always have been. I used to be," I admitted, "not of who you are, but of how much our parents would give to someone who gave so little back." My father stood, a voice raised now. "If you go through with this legal nonsense, you will no longer be part of this family. No holidays, no inheritance, no connection." I met his eyes. "You already cut me out. You just didn't expect me to notice." Then I stood up. "I'm not paying for the car. I'm not backing down. And I'm not afraid of walking away from a family that doesn't treat me like one." I walked to the foyer, picked up my coat, and paused with my hand on the door. My mother called out, voice sharp and trembling, "What is Savannah supposed to do without that car?" I turned quietly. The same thing I did when I needed transportation. Buy something she can actually afford. Then I left, not with triumph, but with peace. Real peace. The kind that settles deep in your chest and tells you did the right thing, even if it breaks something that's been cracking for years. The Monday after the dinner, I called a lawyer. Her name was Naomi Vance, recommended by a colleague who had once gone through a messy trust dispute with his own family. Her office sat on the 19th floor of a downtown building, sleek and understated, with warm wood paneling and rain tapping gently against the windows. She shook my hand firmly and listened without interrupting as I laid everything out: the forged signature, the attempted bank access, the emotional pressure campaign. When I finished, she leaned back, folded her hands together, and said, "Miss Brooks, this is textbook financial fraud, and family or not, it's still illegal." I felt both relieved and sick. Relieved because someone finally validated that this wasn't just family stuff. Sick because reporting it meant crossing a line I couldn't uncross. "What happens if I press charges?" I asked, voice quiet. Naomi didn't sugarcoat. "If you report the forgery to the bank and the dealership, it will trigger a formal investigation. If the loan is found to be fraudulent, it will be removed from your name and credit. But the dealership may press charges against your mother, depending on the evidence." I stared at my hands in my lap. "And if I don't, then you're on the hook for 5 years of payments on a car you never agreed to buy." I nodded slowly. It felt surreal. Sitting there in my neatly pressed blazer, a competent adult, trying to weigh the cost of justice against the myth of family. "I don't want to destroy them," I said quietly. I want it to stop. I want to be done paying for their choices." Naomi's tone softened. "Then let's take back what's yours. No courtroom drama, no public flame wars, just truth. Quiet, documented, and firm." That night, I sat in bed with my laptop open and drafted an email to the loan department at Sterling Motors. "My name is Madeline Brooks. I am writing to dispute my alleged co-signature on a recent auto loan associated with Savannah Brooks. I did not authorize this loan, nor did I sign any documentation. Please advise on your fraud reporting procedures." I hit send, then I turned off my phone. I knew what would come next, and it did. The next morning, 37 missed texts. Savannah, in full meltdown mode. "They're saying they might take the car. Are you happy now? I told people you bought it for me. What am I supposed to say if you loved me at all? You'd fix this." And from my mother, "I cannot believe you'd embarrass this family over something so trivial. You're punishing your sister for being different than you. You've always been cold. Elena, now you're cruel." The worst came from my father. "You're done. Don't come back. Don't call. If you want out, you're out for good." For a few minutes, I just stared at those words. Done. I'd been afraid of that word for so long, terrified that standing up for myself would leave me alone. That family was a lifeline I couldn't afford to sever, no matter how frayed it became. But in that moment, I saw it differently. Done wasn't exile. It was freedom. I forwarded everything to Naomi. She responded with a single sentence. "Good. They're scared. That means we're doing something right." Later that week, Leah came over with Thai takeout and a bottle of wine. I told her everything about the lawyer, the messages, the way my voice didn't shake anymore when I said fraud. She squeezed my hand across the table. "You know," she said, "for someone they think is cold, you sure took a long time to say no." That made me laugh. For the first time in weeks, I was beginning to understand something I'd never allowed myself to believe before: kindness doesn't mean compliance. Compassion doesn't require sacrifice, and family doesn't mean forever, if it comes with conditions. The next morning, I received a voicemail from a man named Robert, head of the fraud investigations unit at Sterling Motors. Miss Brooks, we've reviewed the documentation you submitted. Based on the handwriting discrepancy and lack of verification, we're launching a formal inquiry. During this process, you will not be held liable for any payments. I hung up, closed my eyes, and let the silence settle. It wasn't victory I felt. It was release. Not loud, not cinematic. Just a quiet reclaiming of space I had been taught I didn't deserve. But now, finally, I knew better. The repossession happened on a Thursday afternoon. Savannah had taken the car to a boutique mall outside Orlando, probably mid-errand, mid-selfie, mid-denial. I found out because she live-streamed it. 30 minutes of shaky footage, mascara-streaked cheeks, and shrieking accusations at a man in a navy jumpsuit calmly unlocking the car. Her caption read, "My own sister had my car stolen. This is what betrayal looks like. Never trust someone just because you share DNA." The comments poured in. Some were sympathetic, others vindictive. A few mentioned me by name, confused or angry. I didn't respond. Instead, I closed my social media accounts. There was nothing left to say that hadn't already been said in silence. The next day, my lawyer Naomi forwarded an email from the dealership confirming that the loan had been fully removed from my credit. No balance, no liability, no future association. Attached was a scanned copy of a notarized fraud admission signed by my mother. It read like an apology, though it never used the word. Just a carefully worded acknowledgement that errors were made and that I, Eleanor Brooks, had not authorized the transaction. I stared at her signature for a long time. It was the same one she'd forged a month earlier. This one, though, felt real, legally binding, and, in its own way, final. Naomi asked me if I wanted to pursue criminal charges. I said no, not out of mercy, but because I didn't want a courtroom. I didn't want headlines. I didn't want to hand Savannah another stage. What I wanted was closure, quiet, durable, unshakable. They would never access my accounts again. They would never sign my name without permission. They would never gaslight me into carrying what didn't belong to me. I was done. 6 weeks passed. Seattle bloomed with early spring, cold mornings still, but daffodils pushing through damp sidewalks and sun catching on windows in new, forgiving ways. Work was steady. My sleep was longer. My apartment, once quiet in a lonely way, now felt like sanctuary. I rearranged the furniture, bought a new rug, deleted contacts I didn't need anymore. I started going to yoga again. I went hiking with Leah and her boyfriend on Saturdays. We talked about everything and nothing. It felt good. It felt light. One evening, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. "This is Taylor, your cousin. I just wanted to say, I saw what happened, and I'm sorry. I didn't know the whole story. I believed what they said, but now I'm starting to see it for what it is. If you ever want to talk, I'd love to reconnect. No pressure." I didn't reply, not yet, but I didn't delete the message either. Some doors don't need to be slammed shut. They just need stronger hinges. In April, Leah's family invited me to Easter dinner. Her parents, Fran and Mark, greeted me at the door with hugs and the smell of rosemary and lemon. Her younger brother told me a terrible pun about deviled eggs. I laughed until I cried. We passed around dishes like we'd always done this. I brought wine and carrot cake. No one asked me about Savannah. No one mentioned the car. No one measured my worth by what I gave them. Later that night, As we sat on their porch watching the sky fade into blue velvet, Leah's mom leaned over and said softly, "You know, we're really glad you're here. You're family now, if you want to be." I swallowed hard, not because I was sad, but because I realized I believed her. In therapy the next week, Dr. Wallace asked me a question. When you think of the word family now, what image comes to mind? I paused, and then I said, a table, a seat saved, just for me. She smiled. That's what healing looks like. Elena, the story didn't end in explosions. There was no last-minute apology, no cinematic reunion, just a woman, standing quietly in her own life for the first time. Yes, it still hurts sometimes. Mother's Day was hard. My birthday was quieter than usual. There were nights I'd wake up wondering if I'd done too much or not enough. But then I'd remember the truth: I didn't lose a family. I stopped funding one, and in doing so, I found something better: boundaries, peace, and the kind of love that never comes with a receipt. Sometimes the deepest wounds don't come from strangers. They come from the people who say we did it because we love you. But love isn't control, and family isn't a license to manipulate, exclude, or exploit. Elena's story reminds us that silence isn't peace. It's just postponing the moment we finally choose ourselves. She didn't walk away from family. She walked toward the kind of love that never demands a receipt. And maybe that's what we all need to hear. You are not selfish for setting boundaries. You are not cold for protecting your peace. You are not alone for wanting love without conditions. If this story touched something in you, if you've ever felt like the invisible one, the strong one, or the one expected to give without limit, know this: you deserve better, and you are not alone. Let us know in the comments. Have you ever had to choose between your sanity and someone else's comfort? Tap like if this story stayed with you. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that heal, question, and empower. Your journey starts here.